Hello everybody, and welcome to a Blender tutorial. This is Lone Wolf. This is a quick creature tutorial that I'm whipping up based on the guy you see right in front of you. This is done entirely with Blender and another program called Materialize, both of which are free. So you won't need to use Photoshop, you won't need to use anything else. It's just going to be these two. And you'll need a web browser to get materials to make the textures. That's going to be explained as well, but I'm sure if you're watching this or if you own a computer at all, you have a web browser, so that's not a problem. Anyway, this is part one. I think this is going to be a three-part series. I say I think because I don't know exactly how I'm going to divide it at this point. Part one here is going to be doing a little bit of sculpture, a little bit of sculpting in Blender as well. So you don't need to do ZBrush or any other programs. Blender does it all. And part two, I'm going to be doing retopology and skinning, which involves UV mapping and all that good stuff. And then in part three, we'll do texture and rigging, which is actually pretty fast. Rigging's pretty simple. And I'm going to do the dumbed down kind of simplest bare bones version. I'm not going to articulate the face or whatever. It's just going to be make the wolf move. So yeah, let's get started here. So the first thing you want to do when you are looking at a picture like this is you want to get good reference images. So, as I said that, my dog just came down and looked at me, and yeah, that's a good reference image right there. So before we do anything, we're going to get some nice reference images, and what you want to get are I'll show you in a bit what I got for myself, but what you want to get for yourself is good side reference images of the face, images of the wolf in motion, just any kind of size comparison, and just kind of post them up, and that's what we're going to do right here. So here I have Blender. I'm just going to jump right in. As you can see, it's just the starting cube here. I am going to get rid of the starting cube. I think it's just like a habit to get rid of the starting cube. You don't need to get rid of the starting cube, but you know, why not? Everybody does it. I think in every tutorial, everyone's done it. So it just you just kind of get rid of it. I think we're not going to use a cube in this, but there are a lot of times when you do use the cube to start off, which is probably why they put it there. Anyway, I am going to do a little fiddly work right now, and I am going to add some pictures that I have, reference pictures. And we have some good ones too. So I'm going to just throw a reference picture in there. And the way that you do this is you can literally just look at it. You can't, I don't think you can see it right now because I'm just showing you my Blender window. But you can actually just drag and drop pictures from your I can't even remember the name for it now, from your file viewer, and just drop it directly onto wherever, and you'll see it'll actually take the orientation of however you dropped it, so whatever straight on. You can correct this, of course, but for those of you who are new to Blender, this is how you do it. So I'm going to just drop a few in there. That's a kind of cool one. I don't know if that's actually a wolf or if it's a wild dog of some kind, but it gives you a good idea of the structure, so I'm going to use it anyway. Let's do another one. Let's get... Oh, here's a good one. All right, so wolf versus a husky. That gives us a nice kind of size comparison. It gives us a nice body comparison. For a dog, you can notice a few things about a wolf that's different than a husky. And this gives us a good idea of what a face looks like of a wolf. So you know what? We're not going to waste too much time on the gathering of reference. You can populate the whole thing with reference pictures if you want, but we're just not going to do that. All right. So coming back over here, I am just going to reset all the transforms of this picture. I am going to do the rotations, put them all back. All right. And then I'm working on the x-axis here. Red is the x, yellow is the y, or green is the y, and blue is z or z. Right, so I'm just going to take it on the x. I'm going to press R, Z, and then 90, and that rotates at 90 degrees on the x-axis. I'm going to press R. Oh, sorry, RX and 90 was what I did before. RZ and 90 this time. I'm going to do negative 90, so it flips the other way. And as you can see, these are two-sided, so I wanted the wolf to face that way. That's why I flipped it around the wrong way. Also, these are totally resizable. If I press S, I can just scale it right up. Oh, my bad. All right, I'll just push that to the side. And I'm not going to use this to block a model. That's not what we're going to do here. Block modeling is fine. And as far as references goes, these aren't terrible references for actual block modeling. They're kind of terrible, but not totally terrible. For this, though, since we are doing our own wolf and we're doing our own impromptu thing, and we're being very artistic, generally the rule is if you're doing something that doesn't exist and you want it to be organic, sculpt it out first, then do retopology. So that's what we're going to do. All right, and I'm going to try to organize these so they're just kind of sitting in a way that I can see. You can tell I'm kind of used to working from this side, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these just all over the place. And so what we're going to do, we have a couple of ways that we can attack this. Everybody has their own method to sculpting. The main thing that I like to do is I want to try and get a general shape as close as possible so that I'm saving myself time and effort. Because you can extrude portions until the cows come home and remesh and remesh, and we're going to be remeshing a lot. But I think it's far more effective to make a general shape that looks pretty good and just kind of go from there. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to do this by adding some metaballs. I'm going to add my first metaball, and this metaball, go into orthographic mode. I'm going to try to get it about the shape of the shoulder there. We're going to try to make this the shoulder, and just call that section. I'm going to make sure that this X is 0. This is very important because you can lose track of this very easily. Make sure that your X remains 0 for all of your metaballs, or you're going to get a lopsided wolf. All right, and so I'm just going to press Shift and D to duplicate, and I am going to drag this over here again. I'm making sure that my X remains 0. You can see they kind of want to connect, but we're not going to let them. Sorry, guys. I'm going to take this down just a hair. All right, I'm going to do Shift D again to do another duplicate. And I'm going to take this in the center. I'm going to scale it down a bit, but I'm also going to scale it on the y-axis just to give it that kind of ellipsis shape. It's not bad, it's not great. Meh. Not a huge fan, but that's fine. I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. I'm going to scale the butt down. I'm going to access this ellipsis in the center and give it a little bend, just a little bit. It's not too bad. All right, I am going to continue my reign of terror here by making another duplicate of our initial ball. I'm going to make it the head, and I'm gonna try to keep this. Let's see if I can. I want to try to keep this so that the forward part is still stockier than the back, so you can see what I'm kind of making. It kind of looks like a piece of excrement at this point, but I assure you it will not stay that way. But you can see, I want to keep a kind of a thicker neck because wolves, as you can see, they kind of have a thicker neck. They just go down to the shoulders, and it looks very stocky, it looks very strong, it looks very fur padded. That guy doesn't, but these guys do. Even the Husky, though he's not a wolf, has that kind of thick tapering off. It's not a thin, spindly neck and then a head. It's a taper. So that's what we're doing. We're going to try to keep that general shape. And of course, one thing that's going to be really hard for us to do on our own is a nose, so we're going to block that out as well. So I duplicate again. I squeeze down, way down, and we're going to make this, it's probably about good. One thing that I will do at this point, now that we have a general shape where we're looking at more specific stuff, because we can lose some of this shape with resolution, what we're going to do is we're going to select any part of the meta ball. It really doesn't matter. They're all really considered one meta ball. We're going to go over to our side panel over here, and we're going to select this little, it looks like a little snowman who's about to fall over. This is our meta ball tab. It'll give us that. I don't know if actually I don't have to have all of them selected. So we can see our resolution in our viewport. This is our render resolution. If we were to render this right now, it would render at that resolution. But what we want to do is we want to make this more refined, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn it, if you can, all the way down to 0.5. And you can see that this changes a lot. Of course, everybody's rig is different. Please, if you can't handle 0.5, don't, or 0.05, don't push your computer to do that or do anything that might impede your workflow. This is just what my computer can handle, so I do it. Okay, so we can see that it changed the shape of the nose, so I'm changing the shape of the nose, and I am going to try and fit it. It kind of looks like a weird Weevil Pokemon character, but we're just going to go with it. We're going to keep that nose there. It's fine. This is not the final product, so we're not going to worry about it. Having said that, I am going to really, I'm going to take this, I'm going to duplicate that because it's already kind of an ellipsoidal thing. I'm going to make sure that this is still sitting at 0, and I'm going to ensure that by taking it out with the Y. Transform, and I am going to give it just a little notch back here and make it into a tail. And this is how we're going to get our tail. And what we're going to do for this tail, you can see on a lot of our references the tail is hanging straight down. We do not want to do this. We want to scale it on the Y and keep it sticking straight out, because this is going to help us later when we are rigging it. So just eyeballing it here, you can tell that the tail is going to be pretty long. It's going to be about half of the length of the body, maybe a little less. So we can keep it about half the length of the body, maybe a little more actually. I think that's probably a little bit more than half. No, it's about half. So yeah, that's about a good sized tail. And again, we're not going to get hung up on the details of how sharp it is or how weird shaped this part is. We're just going to let it be. We just are looking for placement. That's what we're doing. Now I'm going to flip the script quite a bit, and I am going to stop modeling so symmetrically. What I am going to do now is I am going to, again, Shift D on this ball, but I am going to pull it to one side, and we are going to model ears. And we're only going to model, I say ears, but I say that in the loosest possible sense because we're not modeling ears, we're modeling an ear. and you'll see why in a little bit, but yeah, only one ear is to come from this wolf. All right, and again, we can't make it sharp per se. We could try to make it pretty sharp, but it's really going to be to no avail if we try to make it too sharp. Again, we're not modeling right now, or we're not sculpting right now, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so we got to make some legs. A wolf without legs is a pretty sad thing. All right, so we're going to pull this to the side. So I'm going to go this way and pull it up to the side. And wolf legs, there's going to be you're going to have a real urge to try to have legs go out this way. It's going to cause problems for you later, so don't do it. Wolf legs go pretty straight up and down. And you don't need to worry about how much it clumps together or how much it sticks. You are going to be fixing all of that when you get to the modeling, or in the, I keep saying modeling, when you get to the actual, sorry, my brain is blanking out, actual sculpting stage. All right, and so we're going to do another one. We're going to do it a little bit smaller. We're going to come down just so it tapers off. And we want it to be fairly straight. You can see that the dog's, leg is a fairly straight thing. Not back there, but up front, we've got a little bit of I would like to call it an elbow that comes up to the shoulder. But again, this is all going to be blocked out later, so don't worry about it too much. All right, I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring it down. And here's a part of the dog that is important. So you'll notice their feet, their feet, their paws go out very straight. So they're almost like little footsies. You can get real hung up on how the paw should go out. Don't, I would say. It'll come together. it just works. All right. I'm gonna bring that. Oh, that's connected there. I'll bring this up just a little bit, and now it looks like something a 2-year-old would have drawn. Do not worry about it at this point. If you start to feel bad, don't. Okay, I'm gonna bring that right there. I think that's about, it kind of goes in a little bit more. Yeah. All right. Yeah, spending too much time on just blocking out everything is a waste of your effort and your talent. I know you guys are way more talented than necessary to do this. So, all right, we are going to go front to back, which is scaling on the Y. And I'm going to make it not so kind of wolf on wheels looking. And I am going to tweak this just a bit. I kind of want to keep this at a similar level. You don't want the legs to deviate too much from each other. So I'm going to try to keep it simple. But I'm going to scale it on the X. Because we have this little kind of fold going forward, it's more like that. All right. Then we're going to have maybe a two-parter here. All right. This is going to go, and well, I don't want to turn the booty. All right, we're gonna rotate on the X. That's R and X for people who are fairly new to Blender. RX, rotate on X. In other programs, Maya, I believe they use the WQE or something like that. Yeah, in Blender, it's very straightforward. And so again, this doesn't look like a great leg. Heck, it doesn't even look like a good leg. but it will do the trick. I guarantee it. All right, so we're going to pull that in just a little bit. That's fine. You know what? That's better than I could hope for blocking. Okay, so you might be saying to yourself, Blair, you have half a dog. This is true. This is absolutely true, and it's going to stay that way for a little while. Don't panic. You do not have to do this on the other side. I repeat, you do not have to do this on the other side. Okay, so we have our meta ball. It is as high a resolution as Blender will allow at this point, and that's going to be good enough for our purposes. So I am going to, instead of taking everything and transferring it to the other side, you're going to be like, oh, there's some trick to doing that. There is. But first, I'm going to take these meta balls, which are absolutely useless to us at this point, and I am going to go over to Object, scroll all the way down here to Convert to, and I am going to go over to Mesh from Curve Meta Surface Text. So this is going to take any of those and turn it into a mesh. And you don't have to have all of your meta balls. You can see over here there's a bunch of meta balls in your little outliner. Go just click on one of them. All you have to do is click on one of them. It will select the entire meta. So I'm going to click this, and you can see, boop, instead of all of those meta balls, we have a single mesh, and that is called mball 0.013. That is useless to us, so I'm going to rename this fun little thing, oof, with apparently left my caps lock on, apparently a lowercase w and an uppercase oof. I am okay with that. All right, so the mesh is terribly lopsided. So how do we fix this? We fix this very simply. Meta balls, when they're converted to meshes, suddenly acquire their own topology. And if you're not familiar with what topology is, in a nutshell, it's the lines that make up all of the edge loops that make up your mesh. So yeah, if we go into edit mode, we can see the topology now, and it looks like a mess. It's a total mess right now. And that's fine, because it's not actually an entire mess. It's kind of a mess, but it's mostly not a mess. You can see that down the very center, if we follow this Z axis, that there is a perfectly symmetrical set of lines running the entire length of the model. This is great, because what we can do is we can go into our viewport shading options. We can go to transparent. So we'll take our little selector, and we'll go through half of the vertices, exactly half of the mesh. Boop. Select that, and you can see if you zoom in that only things on this side of the z-axis are selected. And then we're going to do something that might make your heart jump a little bit, but we are going to delete all of those vertices. Oh no, we have half a wolf. So what we're going to do with this half of the wolf, we're going to call it the good half. We're going to go over to our modifiers. We're going to add a modifier, and we're going to go over to mirror. Now, mirror by default is going to mirror on the x-axis, which is why we're working on the x-axis, and boom, there you go. We have another half of a wolf. But oh no, look, there's a huge gap in between. This is easily solved. All we have to do is turn on clipping. With all of these selected, we'll just move them a little bit toward the center until they touch, boop, and let go. I think that's very important to let go of it once it's at the center. And then if you pull it back just a little bit, you'll notice that it has this beautiful center line. And that, now, ladies and gentlemen, is a complete mesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right in from here, since we have a full wolf now. We're going to jump right into our, actually, before we do that, we are going to go back into object mode. We are going to apply our mirror modifier, because that's important. That makes it a full mesh. If we went back into edit mode, boop, you can see that it is a solid mesh, and it's still symmetrical, which is good for our purposes. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to go into Sculpt Mode. And for this, I highly, 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 highly recommend, it's not necessary, but it's going to be a struggle if you don't. I highly recommend getting a pen tablet. You want to use a pen tablet to do your sculpting. Really, the finer lines and the movements and the strokes and the things that you can do with a pen tablet are so superior to a mouse. Not only that, but a mouse only has the ability to do a click function, which it goes from 0 to 100 in terms of pressure. Blender does inherently have a pressure sensitivity built into it. So you can use stuff like the clay. Actually, let me see if I can get an example here. I'm going to, instead of, there's the option to go over here and go down to Sculpt Mode. I highly recommend that you do not do that. I would go just over to the Sculpt tab, and that will change stuff around to be way more friendly to sculpting. Say, for example, I wanted to use the clay strips. With a mouse and keyboard, if I just were to click, it's just going to give me a clay strip like that, right? If I use the pen tool, notice nothing's changed about the brush size. I can do lighter strokes, and you can see that it slowly emerges, and I can do a thicker one as I go. So this is, it's a good tool to have. What we're going to do, we have this nice wolf here, and there are a couple of options you can go with. Of course, if you already have your own workflow for sculpting, I highly recommend that you use that, do what you're comfortable with. In my workflow, I will make use of this little tool over here, which is called Remesh. And basically, it does its best to preserve what you have here, but changes the resolution and makes sure that the topology is flowing in the right direction. So it's very easy to get things twisted so that lines are going crazy around your mesh. Remesh will change it so that you can sculpt a little bit better once you've sculpted it. So I'm going to remesh right off the bat. I am going to go to 0.06006006. If this crashes my computer, I apologize. Again, you want to try to find your voxel size. You don't want to do exactly what I'm doing. I have a different computer. Don't copy me. Do as I say, not as I do. don't do exactly what I'm doing here, because this might crash my computer, might crash your computer, just depending on what you're working on. I might have put too many zeros in there. We'll find out soon enough. Not responding. Oh, that looks good. Wait for it. Nah, it's fine. This is fine. Okay, so now you've noticed that, let's actually see how it performs, that it looks worse than it did before, if anything. This is okay, because if you look at it in edit mode, you'll see it is like solid vertices. It's black. So yeah, it looks that way right now. That's okay. It's just trying to preserve what it thinks we want. So we'll go back into Sculpt Mode. I don't even know if I might have to remesh to a lower resolution, guys. Yeah, I am. Oh no, actually, this is working out pretty well. Okay, so you can see as I use the smooth tool, it starts to look more like its actual resolution, and that's great. Actually, this is perfect. Yay, I got the right number of zeros in there. Okay, so one thing you're going to want to make sure you have on is up here there's a little thing that's mirror on the x-axis. This is not like the modifier. This does not mirror what we have on the x-axis. This just ensures that whatever we do to this side happens to this side. And this will save you lots of time, and I would say is necessary. You do not have to remesh as much as I do. It's just a part of my workflow. What you can do is you can go up here, and there's this thing called Dino Topo. And what that's going to do is, as you're working, as you're sculpting, it's going to change the mesh's topology to match what you're doing. Sometimes it works okay. In my experience, it's a nightmare to deal with. So, just depending on what you're doing, it might be exactly the tool you need. For me, it rarely is. And that's fine. Everybody uses different tools. Everybody has a different workflow. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to try and straighten this guy out here. I am going to take this smoothing tool, I'm going to turn this up and I'm just going to go, wah, and really just try to get this smoothed out so that I have a nice kind of mushy canvas to work with. And again, it's scaling on the X, or it's mirroring on the X. So anything I do to this side, I know is happening to the other side. Likewise, anything I do to the inseam of the leg on this side is happening on the other side. All right, and I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to paint real quick to make it nice and smooth. All right. Okay, so let's kind of take a second to look at our wolf. Let's see. So what we're going to start with is just a basic shape. We want, let's see, we want, let's start with the front legs. Why not? You can start really wherever you want to. Well, I think last time I started with the back legs. I'm not gonna do it this time. I'm gonna start with the front legs. Okay. So I highly recommend not starting with the head. Try to always work your way from general to specific. So with the arms, I can do some pretty good stuff. I'm going to flatten out a little bit of the stuff here, but this is all a part of a very general scheme of what a wolf looks like. So I'm going to just take the flattening tool. I'm going to just flatten that out a little bit. I am definitely going to flatten out these arms. And right now I'm just trying to get a nice basic shape, not working too hard on the very specific stuff. And if you mess up, it's okay. It really is fine. Blender is very forgiving, and the way that we're going to work in this is going to be very forgiving because we're going to remesh so much that really the mesh is going to be like, okay, never mind, let's see what else we can do. So I'm going to take this in a little bit. I'm going to do that by using our handy dandy elastic deform. And the tools, I should briefly go over this. The tools over here you'll see me use are pretty varied. The ones I use the most are going to be elastic deform, this one right here, and that basically just pulls and pushes things like it's made of elastic. This smoothing tool right here, I use a lot. This just smooths out various lumps, bumps, vertices, etc. You have to be careful with it sometimes because it will completely undo your work in some cases if you forget to remesh. If not, it's actually pretty cool. Flatten just does exactly that. It flattens surfaces. Sometimes it can pinch surfaces if the topology is not right, so be careful. This one is the Crease Tool. The Crease Tool is great. I'll be using that a little bit later as we get to more specific details. And the other one that I use quite frequently is the clay strips, and I will show you why right now. Clay strips are especially good for simulating muscle under the skin. So what we've got here is we've got clay strips. We're just gonna go nuts. Why not? You know, this is a very forgiving project, so we're gonna do it. And so we have muscles. We have muscles running up here. They're running all over the place. Why not? So yeah, we have lots of muscles. Wolves are muscular. They have muscles. So we can have those muscles going up like that, and you're like, Blair, that looks like poo. What have you done? I can take the smooth tool on these clay strips and look at that. It actually looks like we're just putting skin over that. And so that gives us this kind of sinewy look. So you can see as I go and I smooth out more, it starts to disappear, yes, but not enough that it loses that kind of sinew feel. And of course that's happening on the other side. Now it kind of looks like that meme dog that you know, the one that's like all muscular, that somebody photoshopped a dog to be like super muscular and it's like standing on stairs. Anyway, but you can do that. So the clay strips is one I'll use quite frequently. You'll see me use that. The crease is also particularly useful for that kind of definition. It's just going to give us, it's not really going to carve into things, but it is going to define where things can crease better. So you can use it to, you know, go back and forth and crease. I wouldn't use it on a straight surface that much. It's just not, it's not helpful. For that, you should use the draw. So the draw basically just adds to your mesh. what I said about creases before is that if you want to really cut into a surface, use the negative draw, and that can be either, pressing the subtract little icon up here, or you can hold, if you don't want to, keep going up here and clicking, you can hold Control, and that will also do the opposite of what you have. So you can actually, crease in, cut into things, and that's a good way to do it without using the Crease tool. All right. So you can see through my little rant about tools here, we're actually developing a little bit more of a solid leg. And you can see right here on the leg of the wolf, it comes back into an elbow. So we're going to make that elbow for our wolf. I'm going to go over to the elastic deform. Might not be exactly the right tool, but my computer's lagging just a little bit. Next time I remesh, I might do it at a slightly lower resolution because this is very high resolution. Not to show off or anything. Okay, so yeah, there we go. We just kind of use the elastic deform tool, and we can pull it around. Now, what this is doing to the mesh is actually kind of destructive because you can see that it's stretching out the various vertices. They're not holding their original shape. So what we're going to do to try and correct this error just a little bit is we're going to, and I'll do this a lot, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change this to 0.01. I think that's going to be fine. And I'm going to remesh based off of that. Let's see. Okay, so slightly lower resolution, but probably going to make a world of difference when it comes to performance. So yeah, that's a little bit better. So yeah, so now this is remeshed. Now this is totally reset with the same proportions. Sometimes remesh doesn't work that well, but that's what it's for, and it does a great job in my personal opinion. It has saved me some long hours. So I'm just going to kind of go through, correct this little guy, and make him look just a little bit more organic, a little bit more like a wolf. And this is just kind of a long process. It's art. It's art. And there's really no way to kind of tell you any kind of trick about how to do this. It's kind of like handing a paintbrush to somebody and saying, go do it. There's you have your eye for what you see, and you have to develop what you can develop in terms of artistic talent, and go nuts with it, really, or not, whatever you want to do. All right, and so we'll go through. We're just going to try to get the general shape. It's nothing serious. I feel like these are a little too far out. They're a little pit bull right now. Not the artist, the actual dog. So we're gonna pull this. Yeah, see, that's more of a stalker kind of, not like creepy stalker, but more stocky kind of, like something that's more aerodynamic, something that's meant to hunt. And we're just gonna smooth this out just a little bit, and we'll make changes to this as we go. For now, that's we're doing good. We done good. All right, and we'll just take another glance at our reference image, and what do you know? We have another joint here. Right there is another joint, and so if we have it go straight down, that's going to be a bit of a disservice to our wolf friend. So I'm going to select the elastic deform tool. I'm going to bend that back just a little bit, yeah, because that's more correct. Then we are going to actually take our draw tool. We're not going to have it be negative because that's not what we're all about. And we are just going to draw a little bit on the back here. Make that little puppy pad. It's probably a prehistoric thumb or something like that. Go back to elastic deform, and we're going to just kind of pull that up and then we'll lower the strength a bit, and we are going to pull the pad itself downward just a little bit, just so that it has that kind of, oh, I've been hanging out here for 13 years, or however old the dog is. I don't know. The wolf. I don't know what the lifespan of a wolf is. If anybody knows the lifespan of a wolf, please add it to the comments, because I would love to know what the average lifespan of a wolf is. All right, and so for the feet, we're not going to mess around with the feet too much. We're going to give it a general shape. We kind of know the way that a paw goes. We're gonna bring it out there. They do have little thumbs. Boop. So we're just going to make it kind of paw-like, not terribly paw-like. But you will notice that there is a bit of a swoop on the paw. So it's flat on the top, and then it swoops down. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use our little crease tool. We're going to give it a little crease up here. Boop, boop, boop. Just going to draw it. And the beautiful thing about having symmetry is that on this paw, I see this side, but you'll notice that over here, I can see the other side of the paw, and it's going to do the same thing. So I can just draw on either side, and that does the trick. All right. Not only do we have that top flat area, but we do have a little bit of a crease there. I'm going to just do a little draw at the bottom. And you can see where the polygons are getting stretched here. And that is going to be solved with a remesh. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it looks a little stretched, it looks a little weird. That's fine. What are we going to do? We have our good optimized resolution. We're going to remesh, and you'll see, watch the paw and see what happens. Oh, look, it's a better resolution now. So that is a way that we can really add to our meshes and make them good. Right. So right now it looks like it's wearing like little socks, but it's generally a paw. That's what we're going for. All right, so let's move on to the back leg. Actually, I'm gonna spend a little bit more time on this. I want you guys to get as much information as you can and see as good of an example as I can possibly give you, but at the same time, your time is precious. So, okay, so we have a little bit of a faux pas here. You can see that the back leg of the wolf kind of goes directly into its butt, which makes sense. That's how all creatures really work. So we have to shift some things around to make sure that that happens. We're going to grab our elastic deform tool, and we're just going to grab this and just kind of level out the butt leveling, if you will, so that it has a better shape. And we're gonna smooth this out and just try to make it look like we didn't mess that up during blocking. And boom, look at that. It's a nice clean rump. Who doesn't like a nice clean butt? All right, and we're going to pull this out just a little bit more because it really does extend, and then that goes in more, and then you can kind of start to form what would be the definition for like the hips slash, I'm sure there's a technical term. If there's anybody who knows a lot about specifically wolves and the technical terms for things, please feel free to leave a comment and say, oh, that's the hind quarters, that's the shank, the withers. The withers are on a horse, aren't they? I actually was a camp counselor for a while, and I had to explain parts of the horse to people. So when I had to model a horse, it became actually much easier because I remember, what a horse's back felt like, and what bones were in there. And that's kind of the important thing with any kind of anatomy. We think about it with human anatomy specifically, but animal anatomy, knowing where the muscles are. If you can pull up a chart, I actually probably should have done that for this. If you can pull up a chart that shows where the bones and muscles are, it's so helpful. Okay, so wolves are very sleek hunters. They're also very bony because they are hunters. So we have muscles and bones and stuff, and so what I generally do for the body of the wolf is I give it a nice little flattening on the top quarter there, and then I do a flattening on the side. So that gives us a kind of a suggestive, not suggestive, a suggestion of a shoulder and a backbone. So that gives us a nice little, because look at that, that looks like there's a hip, it looks like there's a spine. That will give you what you need. And you can even do that with a mouse. It really is not, it's not a big deal. You just go whoop, and there it is, done. All right, but we're focusing on the leg. Sorry, I have a little bit of ADD here. So yeah, in no particular order do you have to do this, and you definitely don't have to do this the same way I'm doing it. But yeah, this is how I do it. So we're just going to try to thin out the wolf here, because at the moment it looks a bit like a bean. So we're pulling in its stomach just a little bit. It's hungry. Wolves are generally pretty hungry, and you can see right here there's a bit of a pull up. If you pet your dog, it's not like they're malnourished or anything. They just generally how dogs are built. Yeah, have your dog roll over for a nice belly rub. Little will your dog know that you're just trying to get an anatomy idea, but it'll appreciate the pets, so do that. Okay, and we notice that the skin here is connected still, so we want to make sure that it's smoothed out. It's going to get rid of that, don't worry. And it's starting to, you can really see that it's starting to take its shape, but we want to make sure that things still look connected, that there's still a skin system, that there's still fur in place. So that's important to just kind of stay conscious of that. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing with the back legs. I'm going to reshape them to look like those dog legs right there. I'm going to use the clay strips. I'm going to just use them to fill this in. I don't use the draw tool because I find the draw tool can give a little bit of a staccato look, and the clay strips are a little easier to smooth out. And that was very easy to patch up that kind of canyon that we have there, and it looks very good. All right, so we notice that the wolf has a kind of J shape, not a total J shape, but like a semi-J shape coming down. So we're going to try to emulate that, coming off of the butt. Whenever I say butt, I say it like what's his face? Nick Wilde from Zootopia says it. A skunk's butt. All right, so we're going to come over here. We're going to take out this kind of hind part of the leg, and we're going to make sure it looks like it's bendy, like it's springy. And likewise, we're going to not leave this side hanging. We're going to come back and kind of push that back and just sleek it out a bit. And now you guys, I'm sure at this point, if you're still with me, you will understand why this is a more than one part, because this is going to be long as it is just talking about sculpting. And you can see now that we've painted ourselves into a little corner here as well, because initially I had made it this kind of springboard look where it goes down and then it makes a 90-degree angle back toward the ground. This is not correct. As we can see on the wolf, it actually goes straight up and down as it terminates at the foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to just, I might have to pull up the strength a little bit here. Yeah, it was pretty low. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, I can actually just use this as almost as like a block modeling reference. So yeah, so it comes straight down, not forward. So we can just do that. We can mess with it. Pull it out, and of course the whole pad of the paw makes contact with the ground, not just a part of it. It is like a flat foot. So the tendency is to have it kind of go down and then tiptoe on the ground. That's not how a foot works, or a paw. I keep calling it things that aren't the things. Okay, and so then I'm just going to kind of mess with it. Again, this is all artistic license. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. Having said that, I am going to give it a little bit more of a sinewy definition here. I'm going to use the Crease Tool to do that. I'm not using the clay strips yet. I just kind of want to give it a little bit of the feeling that there is space in between bones. Ultimately, our stuff is going to be so low poly that you're not going to notice half of these details. However, if you want to do a higher poly mesh, these will become important, so we're going to do them anyway. The model that we're going to be focusing on here is primarily for games, so poly count is going to be fairly low, but yeah, we're still gonna do it. Okay, and so we can see that there's actually a bit of a bend here, whereas there's a lot of skin in between here, and that's correct. You can also still see there's muscle definition there, so we need to make sure that this is defined, or else we're going to be in trouble. Yeah, like that. Okay, perfect. All right, so now I'm going to go in with my clay strips, and I am going to start giving this muscles like crazy. And one of my rules with muscles, you should know, I kind of violated it here, but we're not really going to hold it against me, are we? Is that I usually operate in straight lines. Muscles and sinews operate in straight lines. They wrap around and they pull in a very specific direction. They don't serpentine, they don't snake pattern. So I try to make sure that all of my sinews and muscles and stuff are going in a straight line, or a single direction. They don't wrap around. I don't do S's or anything like that. I always make sure that they go one direction. Now I'm going to even it out just a little bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And it may not look like we're doing much, but we are. This kind of definition, again, if you're sculpting a higher res model, you're going to want to do this. And also you can see that by doing these kind of lines and sinews, it looks like there's a bone here. It looks like there's something under the surface. And that's exactly what we want. We notice that there is a bone sticking up right out here, so we're going to try to define that a little bit. Again, once we have a final product, this is not going to matter that much, because most of our detail is going to be in our texturing, and that's fine. But when we oh, okay, so we're running into a little bit of a problem here. You can see that stuff is kind of flexing and bending in a way that feels very stretched, and that's because we have not remeshed. So I'm going to remesh right now, and all of this stuff that's kind of been flubbed around is going to become straight lines, and now it's going to be much easier to work with. Most of our details are going to be in our material and our texture, because it's getting better, but high poly counts are not very favorable for things like games. In movies and animation, you know, yeah, go nuts. All right, and I do want to give it a little bone at the back, just a little something, a little something. Oh, that's a little too much of a something. But yeah, we can give it a little bone, little give a dog a bone. Why not? And you notice that one of the main differences that we have here is that their kind of springy part of their leg is much closer to the ground than ours is. So we're going to fix that too. We're just going to move everything down just a little bit. Not going to worry too much about placement. And we're going to move this up because we can see that we're a lot lower than our front legs. But yeah, that's going to be fine. It's going to be just fine. All right, and then maybe give it a little bit of a smooth, just a little bit. To get rid of a sinew, yeah, it does. That's fine. Okay. And now we're going to try to define these back paws a little bit better. And down. And we're not going to do too much because, we're not really going for the details right now. We want to make sure that we start basic and we work our way up from there. So what we're going to do, that's looking pretty darn good so far. Something's just not rubbing me the right way about this little guy here, so I'm going to... Okay, so right now, pretty solid wolf. What we are going to do is we are going to crease it, and I'm going to say it again, it's butt. And just kind of give it a little bit of a flap to work with, just so that it doesn't seem like the tail isn't coming out of nowhere. It's actually looks like it belongs creased on the body. Then what we're going to do is, you'll notice that it's not a perfect ellipsis. It has a bit of a fattiness to the top. So we're just going to kind of move it around and give it that poof, that extra oof. And try not to ruin the butt. All right. And so yeah, so now it looks like it's attached, not just kind of dumping out. We're also going to take the end, the tip, and we're going to actually this might be the perfect time to use our little hook. And you have to be careful with this because there's a great risk that this could dovetail out. And what I mean by that is that this is still in symmetry on the x-axis. So it will try to pull it outward as much as possible. So be warned. So yeah, I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, and I'm not going to see it's already starting to dovetail. So I'm going to pull that out and just try to keep it there. Dovetail, swallowtail is more like it. Yeah, and you see if I try to smooth it out, it's going to try to resume its normal shape because I have not remeshed. And I do not have Dino Topo on. Dino Topo is the devil, though. Not that it isn't great, but it isn't great. All right. It's probably one of those things where I just don't know how to use it. Okay, so now we have more of like a leading off tail, and that looks more, I don't know, it looks more tail-like. It doesn't look like it's a football, and that's kind of what we're going for. And that's sticking straight out, and that's sticking straight out because we want to rig it later. And rigging from a curled position is not ideal. Okay, so now we have the very, very hard task of making a face. Faces are hard on any animal that you make. Any human, animal, vegetable, mineral, faces are hard, especially on vegetables. Faces are terribly difficult. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to analyze the motion of the face of the wolf. And the motion of the face of the wolf is, I like to try to compartmentalize into its flat surfaces. So a flat surface might be along the side here. That looks like it's a fairly flat surface. It breaks the roundness of the nose. The bridge of the nose coming down, that's a fairly flat surface. The cheek coming out here, that's a fairly flat surface. The breast of the wolf, so you can really call it a breast, but like the front of the wolf. That is the flat surface we're looking at. So as you can see, this is all very round. So our task becomes pretty simple when we look at it in those terms. Our purpose is to give it flat surfaces. I might try to just kind of form it in the right direction. I started out with the flattening tool. I don't think that's the right one to use here. Sure, there's a lot of blenders at home that are yelling at the screen to be like, "Oh, use that one, you fool." But yeah, I'm not going to. I'm just going to wait. Guys, I'm sorry. Right. Okay. So actually, before I do this, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remesh it. So much remeshing. Remesh. Awesome. And I'm going to save, because why not? And okay, so we're getting a little bit more of a dog shape, a wolf shape nose, and that's fine. That's all well and good. We can do this until the cows come home, but ultimately, what we're going to have to do is really kind of aggressively flatten this. And we're not going to do the mouth open, not yet. I'm just going to try to get the general shape here. Just kind of push it in, around. Look at that. Very wolf-like. Try to scrape. Yeah, scrape's fine. Yeah, scrape's going to work better. Okay, so I'm going to use the scrape tool. This is not one that I introduced you to, and I apologize. But scrape is, you know, it's scrape. So we're going to scrape. And we're just kind of trying to flatten out things, trying to flatten out the different parts of a wolf's face. The nose is a particularly tricky bit, but we will do it. Okay, so we're looking more wolf-like here. I'm going to try to get this as wolf-like as possible, just to give us our layers and our surfaces that will project our textures onto, because that's really what this is all about when it comes down to it, is making a surface that conveys the shape that your texture supports. So especially in games, when you have games like World of Warcraft, the poly count is incredibly low, just so low. As well it should be. I mean, with an MMORPG, you want to have a lower poly count and kind of cartoonish graphics, because that is what ultimately allows you to have so many things on the screen at the same time. That's where your budget goes. Okay, so now you see there's a very expressive face on Wolf. You've got a very kind of pulled in. Right now we have it kind of going out like a badger, and that's not correct. So we'll have to do a little bit of shifting around, a little bit of tweaking. In order to do this, we're going to use my favorite tool. You guessed it, it's the Elastic Deform tool. All right. Actually, before I dive too deep into this, since I have done quite a bit of destructive work on this, I am going to, you guessed it, remesh. And I'm also just kind of putting together the ears as I go here. Wolves have pretty triangular ears, and of course we started off with oblongs. I am going to just kind of draw in the angle of the ears. I do this on human ears too, actually, where I draw in what the ears shape is, and then I smooth it out. We gave ourselves quite a bit of room to do this, and with the wolf ears, it really doesn't matter kind of the shape. As you can see, they're so obscured with fur that it really does not make a lick of difference how big they are. It'll just look like extra fuzzy ears. Right. So back to the face. And I'm feeling like this nose is a little dingo-esque, a little long, which isn't bad for like a cartoon wolf, but we're not doing a cartoon wolf. We're doing a more realistic wolf, a more serious wolf. You know the kind. All right. And so I am going to take a little bit of my draw tool, and I am going to just kind of work it in there, just trying to get a little placement so that we can work off of something. All right. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see we've got a very kind of flat-bridged wolf. that's not how they look. It should not be a straight bridge like that. So we're going to take this, so we're going to elastic deform, we're going to pull that back down. And in the act of doing that, we are actually going to form a bit of a brow. And we're going to pull this in. So here's a place where our clay tool comes in handy. We can actually kind of give it eyebrows. We don't want to give it too much of eyebrows. We're not doing a cartoon character. But we are wanting to give it some kind of definition. Just put a little bit more definition right there, because that, my friends, is where all of the expression is, right there at the tip. Okay. Okay, so he's a nice looking wolf, but he's a little cross-eyed and a little chubby-cheeked. We don't want that. We want him to be a sleek wolf. We want him to be a calculating wolf. He's a hunter. And so we're going to take our time going back here, and we're just going to try to correct the face with little adjustments to try and make it so that it looks as kind of sleek and realistic as possible. We're not going for the cartoony look. And so we have to stay away from those kinds of long-nosed, angular looks, because the angular look is a bit of a stylized thing, and we don't want that. We're not stylized. We're realistic. Oh. Okay, and so we're going to pull, actually run that over the nose, because they do have a bit of a crest on the head. Not that big of a crest, but it will give us a little bit of bulk coming down to the eyes, which I rather enjoy. Alright, so we're going to pull the face back just a little bit more. So you really want to get that feeling of flat swooping. I might even use the scrape tool again to go down like this. Just try to really define the difference between the head, the neck, and the body, because that's important on a wolf. Look at this, like almost like a shaggy mane that a wolf has. It's really, really different. Okay, I'm going to pull that out. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a pull, a little push, a little tuck, a little pressure coming out. And you know, it might not be bad, because that's not bad as it is. Give it a little clay strip, you know? Oh, that's way too much clay strip. I was using my mouse. You caught me. That's the difference between the mouse and the pen. So we give it just a little clay strip going down here. And that gives us a little bit of shag. And it gives us that uneven wear, but in a very even pattern, which is nice. This is looking nice. This is not a bad model so far. Alright, and so I'm going to smooth this out just a bit. Just try to keep it smooth. And of course, we're going to lose some of that detail, but our detail is not going to be in our model. It's not going to be in our mesh. But that's looking pretty darn good. I might put a little bit more definition in the shoulder, sharpen the ears up just a hair. Oh, before I leave the face, I almost forgot the most important part. All right, so here's the deal. Eyes are a tricky thing. Generally in human heads, Actually, I'm going to remesh before I attempt this, because this is remesh and save, because this is a trick. Eyes and humans' heads are a little easier to do. You kind of make a socket, you put an eyeball in there, and that's that. With the wolf, we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to look at the eye of the wolf, and you can look at the shape, and you can generally see that it kind of bows over the top and then comes shorter distance down in this kind of almond shape that's skewed downward. And that's a very wolfy eye. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We are going to take the strength up, and so we're just going to take it, actually we're not drawing, we're going to do the opposite of draw, and we're just going to take this and we're just going to draw a little eye, have it come over here, and then we're just going to do the same thing over here, and then we're just going to pull this down a little bit and pull this out. Well, that's a little too much. I gave him a little bit of a wingtip. But yeah, okay. You get the idea. Kind of blocking it out just a little bit. I'm going to smooth this part out. This is not a bad look. And so now we have this kind of wolfy eye look, and you're going to say, well, that's not a wolf's eye. That's just you drew a trench. Get over it. Get over yourself. Absolutely. Well, after I finish the wolf. So that we're just going to mark out while we're on the face, just to get it out of the way, because that's going to become important later. But you definitely want to mark out your eye, just kind of block it out. If you want to use grease pencil, do it. I would not recommend that, because you'll see. So let's do a little bit more detail. Let's try to get as detailed as possible. Oh, and here's a good example of what happens when you remesh. Sometimes when things are a little too creased, it tries to ruin that crease, and that's fine. We'll just smooth that out, just so it doesn't have blocky bits. All right, we're going to go down and we're going to try to kind of just organize the feet a little bit better, make it a little bit more defined. I'm going to do that with this. We're going to stay on the negative. Well, we're gonna give him a little paw, Yeah. You know what? Not bad. Not great. Not bad. And again, we're not worrying about the details on this, because we are making a game-ready model, and that, ladies and gentlemen, requires you to have a pretty basic mesh. Nothing fancy. Just a little paw. Just a little paw. I'm using my dog baby talk now. Alright. That's fine. Alright. Maybe I'll crease it just a little bit. Ugh, really kind of making a mess of this paw, but it's going to be fine in the end, I promise. Right now you're probably like, what's this guy doing? It's gonna be fine. Alright. I'm just gonna take this down. I promise this is gonna be all golden. It's gonna be Gucci. Alright, and so maybe just want to kind of take a look at it. Take a nice gander at what you've done so far. Maybe tweak a few things, but that's it. As far as sculpting goes, that's a fairly strong start. I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to move this back. But yeah, I mean, just make little tweaks, little adjustments. The bottoms of the feet do not matter that much. We'll get into that when we do retopology. But we are going to retopologize that. Maybe, I don't know, do little things, use the inflate tool a little bit. There you go. A little stronger feet. Wolves have pretty big feet. Smooth some stuff out. Move stuff around. You can do pretty much anything you want just to make your wolf exactly how you want it, and boom, there you go. Oh, before you do anything else though, here's what you're going to do with these eyes. I told you this was going to be important later, and it is. Terribly important. So we are going to drop ourselves out of Sculpt. Our Sculpt is done. For better or worse, our Sculpt is fabulous. It's a wolf. It's nowhere near our final product, but it's here. Oh, I should actually have done that. I'll go back into layout mode. I'm going to go into edit mode, and here's what I'm going to do. I am going to. It does not really matter that much, but I am going to select all of the parts of the eye that are raised. I'm actually going to do this by going to the face select mode so that all of our stuff disappears. And I am just going to go through grid line by grid line and just kind of select everything. So I can probably just do this, boop, select what I want. And it's not going to be perfect, doesn't have to be perfect. You will see why in retopology. But yeah, that's a fairly strong eye socket right there. I'm going to call that good after I do those. Yeah, that's fine. And it really does not matter that much whether or not they are the same on both sides, because the retopology will be the same on both sides, guaranteed. So obviously this is way too high a poly count right now. This is 750,000 faces. The traces is 1.5 million. So yeah, this is way too high. We're going to retopologize this, and that will be in our next episode. But for right now, you just select those parts that are raised, and boop, delete, and we want to delete the faces. And bye-bye faces, those are gone. And it's going to look jagged, and it's going to look weird, but that is going to be okay, I promise. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and in our next video, we'll talk about retopology in Blender. And that one is going to have a lot of time lapse because retopology takes a very long time. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this beginning of the wolf adventure. We're making our lone wolf, but we're not doing it alone. So hopefully you learned something about Blender if this is your first time using Blender, and hopefully you join us next time for the retopology and skinning of our wolf. And we're not doing anything inhumane. We're just making sure the UVs are in the right place. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great time sculpting. I hope you mess with your wolf some more, and on the next video, we'll do some more fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you want. Leave a comment if you know some stuff about wolves, and I'll see you next time. Bye.